Good morning, Professor Dries. I hope everything is well with the current situation. I know being on campus is really an ideal situation, but we're doing the best we can. And I had to get a little creative for my capstone project. I wanted to do something a little bit different and give a presentation over my current situation over the past year, and basically taking a class that I was a little bit nervous and really didn't think I was going to end up taking, but I really enjoyed it. And that was, as you know, my philosophy class. And I will just be going over my perspective of it and how I think it is really good that maybe undergraduate students like myself or just anyone in college should take a philosophy class. And to start off, it gets you in a different mental state or state of thinking. And many kids like me, they come to college and they're either nervous to talk in a class where people they don't know about, or they're just too friendly. You know, it kind of seems like they can't stop talking. And no matter what the case may be, this philosophy class I took basically got me out of my comfort zone and getting me into a new state of thinking. Before now, I was really never challenged to think about why I believe what I believe and why I think that, and so on and so forth. So the first one is outside of the box thinking, just about everyday activities and why we as humans need the things that we do sometimes was really just a stepping stone, and it was really intriguing to think about on every day in class, and it really just helped me get outside of the box this semester. Now, in real life, you have to respect others and maybe their property, but you have the choice to respect their opinions, and maybe because it isn't what you believe in, and you can kind of push their opinions to the side or just out of your mind. But in this case, this class even is all about respecting others and seeing their point of view and how their point of view can enhance or even change your point of view. And it's kind of sort of like debating. So if you're not, used to talking or defending a point, this class really gets you, just intrigued and just wanting to defend a point in a sophisticated manner, of course. And it really helps you grow up fast, if you know what I mean. It's kind of just gets you to where you're not thinking about the same situation over and over, and it gets you out of your routine. Because in high school, you're not really challenged to where, you have to get out of your comfort zone. And, you don't have to interact with people that you don't want to, but in this class, you're kind of, I wouldn't say like forced to talk to people, but you really have to, because it just gets your ideas out there, and, it gets them off your chest. And it's really just about interacting with people. And you really have to, think about your opinions in a way that you can explain them, instead of just saying, I can't explain that, or I can't put into words what I'm thinking right now. You have to think about it in a way that they will understand, or that you can put it on paper so that other people can read and just try to get a sense of what you're thinking. And the last one is it was always being challenged. Like I said, in high school, I didn't really challenge, myself. I didn't really want to get out of my comfort zone. And I feel that didn't really benefit me for the best to prepare me for college. So this class, if you're like me, it really did get me out of my comfort zone. And just, as the year went on, you obviously and my classmates saw that I was a quiet person, and now I don't really have any problem with talking to my classmates. So the main benefit I felt from taking this philosophy class about American history and the different political and, just different views that we had was the variety of topics that were covered, from Native American views to the Federalist Papers. All the topics were pretty interesting and something that you could relate to, or at least there was a part of an opinion that someone said that you could take off and go from there. To start, I feel there were multiple, not majorly controversial, but there was a lot of topics that were controversial and that kind of went hand in hand or mention some of the ethical or religious topics, or we're building on, and they incorporate a part of them within the controversial topics like slavery or just multiple political issues that may have happened back, when the Federalist Papers were occurring, or just in today's society. The main example that I would use actually came late in the semester, and it actually mentioned what freedom looked like to the slaves and in their time, or just slavery in general, as I mentioned, when we were talking about freedom, which I will get into a little later when I talk about my favorite topics. Another category could be personal, and that could go into any of them. It just gives you a platform, really, with the Leading the Socrates Cafe. It just gives you, if you want to talk about something personal in your life or something you have dealt with, then you can talk about that. And it really gets, like I said, I'm going to repeat myself here, but getting it off your chest and just being able to express yourself. And then the last two are ethical and religious. And these kind of seem to be the underlying categories that everything reverts back to. But they are very personal and unusual. I mean, everyone has a different, not slightly different opinion than your own. And it really is just great to talk about, about the different cultures, religion. It just really gets you informed. And it's really a class that you can remember things. I will talk about how it's a stress-reduced class, I feel. And that there's no tests. There was just papers where you actually wanted to write about the topics because you got to pick them. And I feel those last two categories also were the most interesting to talk about because, growing up you might have only been introduced to one religion, or, the ethics of your household were, only you knew them, and maybe someone else had different ones. And, it just gives you a different perspective. Now I'm going to go into some of my favorite topics, and I'm just going to kind of go through them pretty quickly here. The first one is the soul. This one seemed to come up multiple times throughout the semester. I know Cameron had a really big cafe over it, and it was really just something that, it was a very popular topic. Some of the things we discussed were whether or not we have a soul, if your soul is immortal, if our soul is predetermined to be in heaven or hell, or if you even believe that you have a soul, and if you even believe there's a heaven or hell. That's a really long conversation, but there are multiple opinions on all of these topics, and it was really good for me to learn people's perspective. I really only grew up with one religion and knowing about one religion, but being at a similar but slightly different practice, with Kansas Wesleyan was really good for me. And the next two I mentioned, the freedom and 4th of July. My favorite part about these two topics was the fact that the word freedom in the event of 4th of July could and probably does mean something different to someone who's being oppressed, when the slaves, or, there's multiple historical events, the Holocaust, and just things like that, where people may have seen it differently, and just comprehending what they were thinking when that time, came on, and was really something good to talk about, because even a veteran from any country is going to have a different perspective for someone who hasn't served in the war. And the last of my favorite topics is just more broad, and this was actually covered throughout the semester, and that was the Native American views. And it was just good to really be informed. It was just another part of American history, and it's not talked about enough, I feel. And this class, and I imagine any philosophy class that you take, will cover some of the Native American views, because that's actually where we got some of our rules and regulations of the Constitution, Bill of Rights, things like that, where not very many people know about it. And it was good to just get the background of the Native American views, so I can kind of connect the dots in a way. And last, changing the way you think. In conclusion, taking a philosophy class as an undergraduate student really gets you out of your comfort zone and enables you to think about topics that you wouldn't normally think about, and it expands your knowledge through class discussions. And I really feel, I know Cajun was doing a presentation on the importance of the Socrates Cafe, and I really, at first, I was really nervous and maybe skeptical even about those cafes. But once I got into them, they were actually really good for the class, and I just really feel most of my paper topics that came during the semester were from the Socrates Cafe. And the next one is kind of what we started with. You're honestly always being asked why. Why do you think that way? Why are those reasons about what you believe in, why are they true? And what is the capital T truth? And it just enables you to understand why you think the way you think. Like before in high school, elementary, you really never focused on why you think that way. Was it your childhood, your religious beliefs, anything at all? And then I hit on this a lot, but always being challenged from others. And mainly what I want to talk about there is learning from others. Some people may not be used to respecting other people's opinions, and they're always challenging you. And lastly, it's a stress-reduced class. I really feel that it was a challenging and difficult class, but in a different way. There was no tests, there was no midnight study sessions because we had a test, and it just really enables you to do what you want to do, not just memorize information, memorize until the test, and then have to regurgitate it and forget it in 2 days. I really feel that this class, and any philosophy class, I talked with some of the other philosophy and religion professors at KWU, and all the topics that we talked about, even the guest speaker, I don't recall her name, but even the topics that we covered, just talking with her, in that one class kind of just gave me a sense, and I actually remember those topics. And this really, yes, like I mentioned, helped you remember the material. And I hope this really convinced you to take the class if you're not sure on whether to take one or deciding to. I really enjoyed it, and it's really informational. If you actually do the homework, you're engaged in class and in the Socrates cafes. And I hope this just kind of edges you in the right direction to take a philosophy class at KWU. And I thank you, Jerice, for everything. I know the circumstances weren't what we wanted them to. I was really looking forward to getting creative with this project. It's one of those things where you just do what you can with what you have, and I really hope this was adequate. I had a lot of fun actually making this presentation with, just sharing it with my family, and I hope that it really, maybe you could use part of this for a lecture or, something like that. And yeah, just thank you for everything.